We are in Illustrator, Chapter 12, Part B, starting on the top of page 365, Drawing Objects in Perspective. When you are drawing in perspective, you can use the line grouping tools or the rectangle tools. So anything under here or anything under here, hold on, there we go. Any of those. The only exception to that is you cannot use the flare tool when you're drawing on the perspective. But any of the other ones will work. The key to drawing in perspective is to designate which side of your perspective grid you're going to draw on, and to select that we use our nice little plane switching widget. So we have our right, our left, and our horizontal grid, and we're going to change to our left grid, so make sure that you have clicked on that. The blue side is what we're using. And you want to select your rectangle tool. You also want to, at this point, zoom in a little bit so you can actually see where you're drawing. I think we may actually have gone in a hair too large. We back out just a little bit because we're going to go fairly large with our drawing. So I have my rectangle tool. I am on my left plane, and notice that we have our mouse is now got a little line with an arrow pointing to the left. This indicates that we're going to be drawing on the left grid. So we're going to start at the bottom corner where all three of the planes meet. That is the origin point. And we're going to drag, click and drag up and to the left. Hello. Oh, I'm not working because I'm using this broken mouse. Never mind. Let me start at the intersection, and I'm going to drag up and to the left. And I want to take this to approximately 3 inches tall. Oh, I'm way taller. I've gone overboard. 3 inches tall and 2.4 wide. So 2.99, 2.4. I don't think I can get any closer than that. So here I am, and that's wonderful right there. If you zoom in tighter, you're going to be able to see a little bit better. You'll be able to see where you are. Anyway, the grid lines are a little closer to you, and your grid may not match exactly the same because it's going to depend on your zoom level, how tight your grids go. With the rectangle selected, you want to use the fill color in the control panel of orange-red called box left. So let's go up here into our control panel and box top, box left. It's a deep red color. Change the stroke to none because by default, remember, we had a black stroke. We don't want any on our box. And we're going to add some more content. There are several ways to add content, and we're going to create another rectangle in a different manner. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more to the grid if you need to. So I'm going to do a command or control plus on this once. Let me see if that'll work. There we go. And I want to scroll down a little bit. With the rectangle tool still selected, we're going to select the right grid and position the pointer over the upper right corner of the rectangle that we drew. You should get you should get your anchor to come up. We want to click, and you're going to get the rectangle box. Now, it records the width and the height of the last rectangle that we drew. So we're going to say OK to that. But notice that your pointer here has that arrow pointing to the right. But notice that the width, even though we drew the same size, because we are working with perspective, it looks wider than the other side did. Now, click the Graphic Styles panel to show the panel. So remember graphic styles. With the new rectangle still selected, there's a graphic style that's been pre-built for you called box right. So just click on that, and that's going to apply that style. This is, remember, a graphic style is something you can use to save formatting from content you create and then apply it somewhere else. So this was a wonderful, fast way to apply the gradient from one object to another. So even though we didn't create it, it was created for us, and we can apply it. With the rectangles tool still selected, now we're going to go to the horizontal grid. So let's pick up our horizontal grid in the plane switching widget to draw in perspective on the horizontal plane. So we're going back again over to fill in, even though you can't see the grid. We've got this top up here that's going to need to be filled in. So we're going to now go over the upper left corner of the first rectangle that we drew. And you want to get that anchor to show up. And now we have an arrow that is pointing down, which shows us that we're going to draw over that. So again, click and drag over to that upper corner at the top, right in there, and you should get a nice hollow point there. And you're going to now release the button. With the rectangle selected, you're going to go up to the fill and change to box top. And now go to view, perspective grid, and hide your grid for right now so that you can see what your artwork looks like. And if we click off, you have this lovely box that you've created. This is probably a really good place to save too. If this didn't work for you, you can revert back and start and do this section over again. So just, if it worked for you, this is fine. Otherwise, go ahead and revert back, which will take you back to where you saved at the bottom of page 364. If it didn't work right the first time, just try it again, and you can rework this section as often as you need to until you can get it correct. By this time now, you should have reworked or gotten everything right so that you have a box that looks very similar to this. It may not be exact, but you can select objects in perspective. We're on the top of page 367 using the selection tools. You can use the selection tool and the perspective selection tool, which is underneath your perspective grid tool. Let me go back up and hide my grid again. Oh, it comes up automatically because I've selected that tool. Okay, we're going to move and resize several of the rectangles that we drew. Now, well, I guess it's handy that my perspective grid showed up. Let's go to view, perspective grid, and we have, oh yeah, now I could hide it. Well, anyway, we want to show it again. So if you didn't, you go to view and perspective grid, and you can show grid. So position the pointer over the perspective grid tool, as I had done already, and hold down the mouse button so that you can get your perspective selection tool. Click the rectangle with the gradient fill on the right grid plane to select it. The right grid plane, right grid 3 up here, is now selected in your widget. With this perspective selection tool selected, you're going to drag the upper right point of the rectangle up and to the left. When the measurement label shows a width of 2.1 and a height of 3.3, release the mouse button. So we want a width of 2.1 and a height of 3.12. Well, I'm not going to get much closer than 3.29. Make sure that the rectangle is snapping to your guidelines. The rectangle that you resized is behind the rectangle that is in the top of the box. Content on the perspective grid has the same stacking order as the content you drew off of the perspective grid. So now we're going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. With the Perspective Selection tool, click to select the first rectangle you created. That's the one on the left plane. Click the word Transform up in the control panel, or if you already see the transform panels, you're ahead, and you want to click the bottom middle point of on the reference point right here, and with the constrained width and height proportions deselected rather, sorry, you want to change the height to 3.3 inches. Okay, which is the same height, or if it's a little bit different on this panel, you can change, it's 3.291, which is very close, so I could do 3.291, which will make that height exact. Okay, now you want to actually get to the top of the box, and we have a slight problem here with that, but zoom in a little bit more. Select the Perspective Selection tool if it's not already selected, and select that orange red triangle, that's the rectangle rather, that's the top of the box. Now you're going to drag it up from the center so that it's slightly above. Dragging artwork on the horizontal grid up or down makes it smaller or larger. Dragging it up makes it further away. Dragging it down brings it closer. We are already zoomed in on the grid, so we're going to drag the leftmost point of the top rectangle so that it snaps to the upper left corner of the rectangle on the left plane. Now drag the rightmost corner so it locks. Oops, let me close that. So it snaps to the upper right corner of the rectangle on the right plane. Deselect by clicking off, and you better save. If this didn't work right for you, go back and rework this section. Before you save it, you can do a revert, and if you need to rework it, keep reworking. And then you'll be able to come back and pick up in the next section.